ready, my dear?
Yes, I
am. So I'm gonna start with the first question.
Yeah.
What's your name?
My name is Michaela.
And what is your current position?
I'm a teacher in an immigrant camp, and I'm also an operator of the camp.
Okay. So what does your job role entitle?
Okay, basically, I have to look after these young boys, which concern in taking them to make shopping, teaching them how to cook, different way how to cook, because most of the time they don't know, they only know actually their food, only African food. So they are used to fry a lot of things, which is not healthy at all. And many of them, they also have stomach problem because their alimentation is not quite good. So I'm teaching them how to cook, to make shopping, and the most important thing, I have to integrate them in the Italian society. So I have to show them how to go to renew their documents, how to apply for an ID card, how to go to the hospital by themselves, because they don't know. And Italian society is very, we can say it's very far from the African society. So many things for them are really difficult to understand. So that's why they have problem in our society, because everything is working totally differently from Africa. I actually went in Africa, in Gambia and in Senegal, and I've seen the way how people live is totally different. But when you come in Italy or in any other European country, you can't live like that, You have to change your attitude, the way how to live is different.
It's a different lifestyle.
Here they must find a job if they want to survive. So they have a lot of problem to integrate. And you also have to consider that Italy, where we are from, the north of Italy, most of the people are racist. They don't want them. Okay, so many times we have to face bad situation, because people tell them, come back in your country, we don't want you here, you are black, So all these things are very heavy for them to see, It's not nice when someone insults you just because of the color of your skin.
So how do you deal with seeing your fellow Italians, being an Italian yourself, treating these migrants and refugees in this way?
It's very frustrating, because many times I find myself arguing with people just because I want to protect them, to defend them. And many times I tell them, what is your problem? Is this guy living in your house? Is disturbing you somehow? Did he do something to you? And most of the time they don't have an answer, because they actually don't do nothing to them. But it's difficult for them to accept these people, because they say, why they are coming here? They are coming here to steal our job. They come here to destroy our country. Why they just don't stay in Africa? They born there and they have to stay there. And for me, I know it's not the same thing, but most of the time I compare myself when I was without job in Italy, so I moved to England. I went to London, and I've never get this kind of treatment from British people. I've never had. Sorry?
Do you think it's because of your skin color?
Yeah, I believe so, because I'm white and I'm European. So some people, they have a very closed mentality. They think, okay, if you are European, you are good. If you are black, you are a criminal, or you sell drugs, or you steal, or you do something bad. But actually, it's not like this.
It's basically stereotyping, would you say?
Yes, exactly.
So, how personal can you get to the refugees?
Can you say it again?
How personal can you get with the refugees?
I don't really understand.
How close can you get with the refugees whilst working with them? Is there a limit on how close you can get to them, or are you able to move free within your job role?
Okay, I'm working actually in two places. So where I'm working in the morning, I'm the only one who is running this refugee project, let's say like this. So I'm alone and I can move anyhow I like.
Yeah.
But in my second job, I'm only a teacher. So many times the guys they come to talk to me because they have maybe some problems, or just because they feel they want to talk to someone, because they are here alone. So that one they don't allow me to do it because they say I'm not a psychologist. So anything these guys want, they have to go to the operator and ask the operator. The problem is that the operator we are having, they are not Italian. They are from Romania. And of course they have a different culture than us, than the Italian people. We the Italians, we are warm people. We like to joke. We like to create relationship between people. Romanians don't do that. So every day I'm facing many problems with them because they say, why this boy is talking to you? He has to come to us. But basically they don't know how to build a relationship. So all the guys in the apartments, they see me like the only person they can trust. And I think even Siddharth maybe told you that.
Yeah, he did. He did tell me that you guys have a quite good relationship.
Yeah. Plus, another thing is that my heart is very, how to say? Yeah. When these people told to me, they tell me about their problem in Africa, in Libya. I'm a human being and I have feelings. So I feel for them too much. And this is not supposed to happen. I'm supposed to be more
cold.
I shouldn't get that close to the boys. Not because I'm a woman and they are boys, but just because sometimes I reach home and I'm still thinking about that guy problems, or I'm thinking how can I help him. And sometimes I just say to myself, okay, Michaela, you can't save the entire world because it's impossible to help all of them.
But you're doing a great job, because for you to be running or teaching by yourself and having to run that part and aspect by yourself, that not a lot of people can do that. So you have to give yourself more credit, because otherwise it's going to be too heavy on you as well.
Exactly. That's what even we have a psychologist inside this camp, which she's coming every 2 weeks, and she also told me that. She told me, Michaela, you have to stay far. You don't have to worry that much about these guys. Otherwise, you will get mad. You will get crazy because you can't help all of them. You know, there are 28 boys. All of them, they have problem. So I even see myself, I can't help all of them. I can't find job for all of them.
That's very true.
And I know even their situation in Africa, I know their families, they are really poor. Sometimes they don't have food.
That's true.
And this is very sad, you know. Sometimes I'm thinking and I say, okay, maybe I complain because I want a new phone, a new television, and then I say, okay, but some people, they don't even have a phone at all. So sometimes I'm crying for something which is silly, you know, because there are some people who don't have even one banana to eat.
That's very true. Which is, in our eyes who live here in the Western world, is very cheap. It's just a banana.
Yeah.
But if you would give it to someone who is hungry or starving, they would appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's true. Really.
So, when did you start working at your jobs even, because it's 2 of them?
Yeah, it's 2. I've started on January 2016. So basically 2 years ago, 2.5.
So why did you start working with the refugees and the migrants?
Well, the first thing was because they were looking for people who can speak English and French. And in my town where I live, it's not easy to find people who speak languages. So they tell me there is this job opportunity. Is to work with refugees. They are all boys and they are all young. So you have to be able to understand if it's the correct job for you or not. Because also some of my friends used to tell me, no, Michaela, why do you want to do that? Be careful because they can do something bad to you. But I was not worried, so I say, why not? Let me try, because I'm a person who like to travel a lot, and I'm very curious. So I wanted to know more about these people. I wanted to know more about their cultures, their way how to think, and I wanted to say, okay, let me see if it's really true that all these Africans, all these blacks are bad. I want to see by myself.
So what have you learned then about the Africans?
Well, let me say, I even told Siddhati that probably is more what they have taught me than what I teach them actually. Because I teach them, many things, but they teach me a lot, the value of the life, the value of relationship. I've learned a lot of things, you know. I've learned many material things, let's call it materials, because I learned how to cook many African dishes, which is good. I've learned some few words of their dialect they are speaking. But the most important thing is the value they give to the family, you know,
Yes.
and how they care about relationship. Because sometimes, you know, it's very hard to trust someone if you don't know him or her. But I've seen these boys, they trust me so much, and I mean a lot for them. And they don't mind if I'm white, if I'm black, you know, that's important. And when they make me, I appreciate a lot when they say one love, one heart, because we are all the same. And that one, I learned it from them.
Wow.
I've never been someone who used to look at that guy is Indian, that one is Pakistan. I'm not used to do that because I also think the same. But talking to them, they really make me understand that we are all the same. God make us like this, white, black, because we have to live all together. Otherwise, he will make all white or all black. But he make us different because he's nice like this. He's good like this.
When you first started and today, is there any difference with the people you work with the refugees and the migrants? Do you think there's a difference in the way the culture of the migrants and the refugee is and how it is today? Is it better now or is it worse now? What would you say?
It's almost the same, but I notice some different behavior. Because in the beginning, the first refugee who arrived, they were more quiet. They were very calm people. So now, refugees who are coming now they understand that these refugee projects, most of them, they are all businesses. You know, because in Italy we have many hotels who bring refugees just to make money, just to get the money from the European Union. So these boys now they start to understand how are things. So they start to be a little bit more rebel. Many of them, they escape from the camp and they just go to find themselves maybe in Germany or in France.
Wow.
Because they are not happy about the system.
Wow.
Yeah, I have in the camp where I'm working in the morning, there used to be 8 boys. Actually, I'm having 2 boys because they all ran to France. You know, they ran away. Then also these people, you have to understand that most of them, let me say 98%, didn't go to school. So they don't like, maybe they don't know how to inform themselves. So sometimes they believe other people too much. Like now, we have many people from Guinea Conakry, who believe that if they go to France, they can get 10-year visa, 10-year document, which is not true. Me, I've tried to tell them. I say, this is not true. I don't know who tell you, but don't believe it, because France is under European Union. They can't give you 10 years. Because Italy don't do that also, Germany don't do. So don't expect France to do that. But they are really sure about it. I don't know, maybe some people who is already in France told them.
Yeah, because I have noticed that sometimes in between each other they talk about countries, different countries, and sometimes one person will call from France, let's say, and say, I got a very good job and they are paying me 20 euros an hour, and then they believe that, oh my God, in France, if you go, you're gonna get a job and they're gonna pay you 20 euros in the hour. So it's like a fairy tale, and it's like what you said, many of them don't know better. So they believe in this fairy tale, and then they all try to go to the same place to do the same thing, and then it just end up backfiring.
Exactly. Then, once I was talking with my boys, and they've told me that people from Italy, when these guys, they were in Africa, people from Italy used to call them and tell them, come to Italy, they give you money, they give you job, they give you documents. So they start to come, they do this very long journey to come to Italy. When they arrive here, the expectation is not like that, because they don't get all these kind of things.
But don't you think as well that when the immigrations started and this mass immigration from mostly West African and East African countries, when it started, it was easier maybe to help everyone, but as time has gone, it's more a heavy lifting for the European countries, and now it's more difficult to try to help everyone. Do you believe that is a reason as well?
Can be, yeah.
And that's why maybe the first people who came got it very easy, and then the people who came later got it not so easy, because things will change when there's a mass immigration and there's a refugee crisis.
And that's why, for example, I have many Gambian friends who have the international protection. So they got the asylum, but because they came from Gambia many years ago, let's say maybe 6-7 years ago, when in Italy there were not this kind of immigration yet. So for them has been more easy to get the document, especially because in Gambia that time they still have Yaya Jammeh. So problems were many, and that's why it was easy for them to get the asylum. Now, even in Italy, they all know that in Gambia, Senegal, Guinea, there are no kind of war. There is no war. So these people, they just come because of the big poverty which is there.
That's true. That's actually true. Do you find it difficult to work with that amount of refugees and migrants when you are alone in your job role or job position?
Well, yes. In the beginning was very difficult for me, and I used to argue also with the boys because we don't understand each other. They didn't know my way of think, my culture, and me, I didn't know their culture. So in the beginning was very difficult. Then I understand many things about African behavior. So I started to say, okay, this boy is doing like this because of this. And I start to behave differently. In the beginning, sometimes, I was shouting like crazy because they didn't want to listen to me. Then I say, okay, no, this is not part of their culture. So I also have to respect that and behave differently.
I like what you said about how you kind of adjusted, not changed, but adjusted so that you guys could meet in the middle, and it all of a sudden became easier to communicate. If everyone had that type of open-mindedness, I believe the world would be a better place.
Of course, 100%.
So, what is your thoughts on the border being closed in Italy? Because I did a little bit of research and I heard that, or I read that Italy was closing their borders, and they are waving away boats that are coming from Libya. What is your thoughts on that?
Right. I think that the entire world shouldn't have any kind of border at all, because we are free to move anyhow we want. It doesn't matter, I repeat it, maybe it doesn't matter if I'm white or black. If I'm not fine in my country, I need to have the possibility to move and find for myself a better life for me and for my family. So now we are having a new government. So the new Minister of the Interior, he say he closed the border. People cannot come in anymore. Actually, I don't know if he really can do that, because this is an European law. So Europe makes some agreement with ONU, ONU.
UN?
Is the
UN.
Yeah, UN. So they make some kind of agreement that all the European countries have to respect. So Italy can say anything they want, but they cannot do it. They can't do it, especially because Libya is not a safe place.
Yeah.
Because the minister was saying, I will send back all the boats to Libya. Libya is not a safe country. You cannot send them back.
That's true. That's true.
The problem, our minister is very angry with the European Union, because he say in the last 3-4 years we have welcomed a lot of refugees. France don't do that. Spain didn't, Germany didn't. So he's asking help to the European Union. So he say, okay, let this boat come, but if the boat has 100 refugees, it's not only Italy who has to take them. Also other countries supposed to help us, because now Italy is full of refugees. All the major cities like Milan, Rome, they have a lot of refugees. And we don't have the possibility to give them job, because we also don't have job for the Italians. So that's the problem. When people, they don't have job, what they are going to do? They are going to sell in the street. They are going to do maybe some criminal act. So that is not good.
I totally agree, and actually I did read about that in a report or article. I'm not sure really, because I'm on dissertation mode, so I've been reading a little bit too much, so I can't remember exactly where I read it, but I did read the same thing, and that the Minister of Interior was angry because he feels like the rest of the Europe abandoned Italy and didn't take their responsibility when it came to the mass immigration refugee crisis. So I did recognize it when you mentioned it. I was actually gonna ask your thoughts about what you think the rest of the Europe needs to do so that we can try to solve this matter.
Yeah, Europe supposed to, because European Union, even the name itself, it says is a union. So all the countries supposed to support each other. What Italy cannot afford, other country supposed to come and help us. Because sometimes I'm even thinking what these guys will do next year, for example. If they are lucky, they will have document, okay? But even they have document, we don't have job. There are no jobs available.
True. Very true.
So what do you want them to do? And now I have to inform myself if, for example, who owns the international protection can go out from Italy to work and to live. Because that can be a solution or can be an opportunity for people who have documents, they don't have job in Italy. Okay, let me move to Germany, let me move to France, maybe I can do something. Because I think till last year, if you get document in Italy, you have to live in Italy and work in Italy.
Yes.
Was not allowed for them to go in the rest of the European Union. So I hope now they have changed it.
I hope so too, because if you put restriction on it, then that's how it's going to be harder for the refugees and the migrants to integrate into different society within Europe in general.
Of course.
So it's,
yeah, of course.
it's limiting their human rights, is limiting their growth, and it's making it tough for that country to carry all the refugees and the immigrants coming in. So
of course.
there needs to be a new law implemented. If you could implement a new law for the refugees and the immigrants, what would that be?
Well, of course, the first thing is that if you come in my country, of course, I will give you at least 1 year of visa to stay and to demonstrate in 1 year what you can do.
That's
Because
fair enough. That's fair enough.
This is the first thing, because these boys, they arrive in Italy, they have to wait at least 1 year and a half without document before they attend to a commission who will decide whether they give you document or not based on your story. So the commission will ask you, okay, what's your name, how old are you, where do you come from, tell me the reason why you left Gambia, for example, to come in Italy. Okay, and if the reason doesn't concern religious problem, sexual orientation, or war problem, you are not entitled to have the protection.
Wow.
So I've seen many Gambians or many Guinean people, which are Muslim country, to say I ran away from my country because I'm gay. Okay, so even the commission, after a while, they say, how comes in Gambia they are all gay? So they don't believe it.
Wow.
I've seen people going to commission, people from Senegal, who say, okay, I ran away from Senegal because I'm Christian and Muslim give me problem. Which is not true, because commission They are very intelligent. Commission is composed by lawyer, by police officer, which they study, is their job, so they know very well how is the situation in Senegal.
Yes.
They know that there are no problems between Christian and Muslim. So 90% of these guys, they don't get the document. My job is also to prepare them for this commission.
Right.
I help them to write their own story. Because commission, they make very, very specific question. In which year, for example, in which year did you left your country? And some people maybe say, okay, I left it in 2000. And maybe they say they born in 1998. How can you leave your country when you are 2 years old? That's why you need to guarantee also an education.
Yes.
The education, but that's why you have to guarantee the education in their country. Instead of spending money for useless project, because I've seen also that why they don't build school, they don't help the families to go to the school. Because in Gambia I've seen big families, a lot of children, but they are very poor, so children cannot go to the school because it's expensive.
Yes.
So first of all, they're supposed to guarantee an education. Because if you are educated, if you go to school, you learn many things, you open your eyes, you know how the world is going, is working.
That's very
I have many people who don't know how to read, how to write. They don't know.
sad.
They don't know even how to spell their name.
Wow.
That's why then even in our district, when they register them, they have many problems because most of them, their name Mohammed, but all of them, they spell it in a different way. So we have many situations of people with the same name, same surname. They don't know when they are born. So they all born 1st January 1995. Most all of them is like this.
Oh wow.
They don't know their birthday.
That is
Because they say, maybe they tell you, okay, I remember my mom used to tell me I born in the rain season. And I say, okay, my rain season last 5 months, 6 months. You need to be sure about what you are saying, at least when you're born. People don't know.
Yeah, that's true. There's people out there who actually have no idea.
Yeah?
So my last question is,
Yeah.
in my research, when I traveled to Italy to meet many of the migrants and the refugees, I wasn't able to see any girls. There was a limitation of the female refugees and migrants. What can you tell me about them? How is their situation like?
All right. The travel, the journey to come in Europe is very long and is very hard. So that's why women don't come. Women, they are all in Africa. They stay there unless they have money, so they can apply for a visa and come with a flight. They take a flight and they come. If not that, the journey is too dangerous for them because they have to travel many days in the desert with no food, no water.
Yeah.
In very
Critical.
in very bad condition. And once they reach Libya, once they reach Libya, most all of them, they get arrested, they go to the prison. So it's very rare. I've never heard people who didn't go to prison in Libya. They all went to prison. Even there, no food, no water. The only women who come are Nigerian, but because they are victim of the traffic, the human being traffic. So for women and children is very difficult to come. That's why they stay in Africa. They send is the men who have to go to Europe to work and send the money to the family. Because a lot of my boys they have family in their country, and every month they send maybe 30 euro, 40 euro to support the family.
Yeah, I did talk a little about that as well. I will go back to the women in a bit, but you actually touched on a subject that I have been thinking about a lot, and that's the monthly payment that they receive at the refugee camp. And so far what I've been told is that they get about 75 euros a month, and like you said, they send 30, 40, 50 euros to their family and survive on 25, 30, 35 euros. What do you think about that?
Right. The European Union is paying 37 euro and 50 to the organization who look after this refugee. Okay. So with that 37 euro 50, the organization have to pay the operators, the teacher, have to pay the rent for the house where the boys are living. They have many expenses, and 2 euro and 50 a day is going to the guys.
Wow.
Is going to them. Of course, people are saying, well, they don't need money because they get food, they get everything. You know, they don't have to spend something for surviving. Let's say like this. So they get only 2 euro and 50 per month, which I see most of them they are sending at least 50 euro to the family, and then the remaining they are using them maybe to buy credit to call in Africa. So basically, the 75 euro.
It doesn't
in 1
month?
No, because it's not enough. It's not enough for them to survive. Because what I also think, and what was even I tried to tell my boss to increase this money, to give them opportunity to buy ticket for the train and to go around to see how is Italy.
Exactly, so they can integrate to the
exactly
society.
because even now these people in the camp, we are living in a small village.
Right.
Nothing is here. Okay, so sometimes I tell them, use your money, try to save it, and for example go to Milan one day. But of course it's expensive, the train. I mean, for them it's expensive. Because going and coming back, they have to spend almost 40 euros.
Wow.
Going and coming back. So the 2 euro 50, yes, someone can say it's better than nothing, but they are giving this 2 euro 50, they are comparing them like they are still in Africa. Because with 2 euro and 50 you can live in Africa, not here.
That's true. I don't even think 2 euro 50 you can per day you can survive in Africa. Not anymore.
No, exactly.
Not anymore, to be very honest. So if you can't survive with €2.50 in Africa, then how are you supposed to survive with €2.50 in Europe?
Giving them more money should be an idea.
Yeah.
Okay, of course, we're supposed to be careful, because if I'm giving more money to these guys,
Yes.
I also have to check them very well what they are using the money for, because I know many Christians that with those €75 they used to buy wine, beers, whiskey, okay, alcoholic drinks. Then they arrive in the camp drunk and they make problem with the Muslim. So it's something that more money, yes, of course, is good, but you also have to control them. Control them more. For example, me, maybe I wouldn't give money, but I would give train ticket. I would give more things, you know.
So they can do some activities.
Exactly, or I don't know, maybe they could go to the swimming pool.
Yes.
They could go to the cinema once at least.
That's a good
Because
idea, actually.
if you don't do activities, your level of Italian will not improve.
Exactly.
Because if you are sitting down all day in the house, of course you are talking only between Gambians, between Ghanaians. So they always speak English or their own dialect.
Yeah.
But if you go out, you will have chance to speak Italian also.
Yes.
Just if you want to buy a train ticket, you must speak Italian.
Yes. Yes.
And me, I can teach them how to do it. But the practice is always better. They have to do things to learn.
Yeah. And obviously they have to be given the opportunity, and without the opportunity nothing will happen. So there's a blockage
Of course.
in the situation. It's not moving forward, it's not moving backwards, it's just a stop.
Because I've tried to propose to my boss. Last year I wanted to take them to swim, to the swimming pool, but he told me no, there are no money, because swimming is not something important. So they can also stay without swimming. And I said, okay then. Then I wanted to take them to a museum, but of course the entry was like €5 each person. And capo is Italian. My boss say, no, a museum is not important. You can teach them in the school. It's more than enough.
Wow.
So that's why all these kind of situations are making the boys really demotivating.
Yes.
They don't even come to school anymore. You know, they're supposed to come every day to school. Is a must for them.
Yes.
But they don't come. Every day they have a different excuse, like children. My stomach is paining, my head is paining, I'm not coming, I'm not feeling fine.
They are frustrated. They're in the house 24 hours.
They're tired.
Yeah.
They have enough of this
because
situation.
they traveled in such a critical journey way, and then they come all the way here, and then they are locked in houses. If they had known, they would have stayed in their own country.
Of course.
Yes. This is a crazy topic. It doesn't matter how you twist and turn it. It's very touching, because it's so many people who's in the European countries who still live in this prison life, and then you have people in Libya who's slaves basically, and then you have people in some of the African countries who are suffering because there's no job opportunities. And do you know what's so funny? To me, the funny part is that really and truly, if you look at the history of race and how there was a slave trade, and how they came in why the Europeans came into Africa and took black people to make them slaves. That's how a lot of the problems began, if that makes sense.
Of course.
And it's sad because now when the Europeans are coming to, or the Africans are coming to Europe, the Europeans are not accepting them anymore. Or the Western world, let me say, not the Europeans, the Western world. And the Western world was the one who started everything. Isn't it funny?
It's true.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy.
I'm with you 100%.
And it's sad, and I don't want to blame anyone really. I wish just there was more people like you, Michaela, because talking to you this past, we actually been on this phone for an hour now, but it's been very interesting, very, very interesting, and I wish there were more open-minded people like both you and I, but more Western people who were open-minded like you, because it's sad because they are stereotyping, and obviously if you have heard a rumor about something and then you step out of the door and you see black people selling illegal substance on the street, you're gonna think the same thing, obviously, but they are doing it because they have nothing to live on, because they come all the way to Europe and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
So it's a vicious circle. It just goes around and around and around, but in a very bad way.